sake, does either one of you have anything even remotely interesting to tell me?
Caught my first tube this morning.
TCL is a proud sponsor of the SKOR North Studios. TCL, America's fastest growing TV brand.
1, 2, 3.
It's Mackey and Judd with Ramie.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Action movie reviews with Mackey, Judd, and Ramie.
Get to the chopper!
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
The ultimate rush. Nothing that comes close to it. Not even sex.
We are the ex-president!
Total commitment. Real thin line between life and death.
I'm not a crook!
Not tragic to die doing what you love. You want the ultimate, you gotta be willing to pay the ultimate price.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and please don't forget to vote!
You want to nail the bank robbers and be a big hero? Definitely. The ex-presidents are surfers.
You're trying to tell me the FBI is going to pay me to learn to surf?
Fear causes hesitation. Hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true.
We'll take you to the edge. Past it.
This is going to be a great day, Johnny.
The taxpayers at Like It Utah, they knew that they were paying a federal agent to surf and pick up girls.
Babes.
Beg pardon?
The correct term is babes, sir.
Yes. This is Action Movie Rewind on Mackey and Judd with Ramie, and today's movie is one of Judd's all-time favorite flicks.
Is this your all-time favorite?
It's right up there. Probably not my all-time favorite, but it is the first film that halfway through I declared this is garbage and awful, and then I got all the way through and I said, I'd like to apologize. It's genius.
And we need to know, and we'll get there, what happened in the second half of the movie that turned Judd's opinion so much on Point Break, which, by the way, has maybe the most simple, to-the-point summary of any action movie we've done so far. The ones we've done so far, you can go back and listen. Mackey and Judd with Ramie podcast, Bloodsport, Hard to Kill, and Con Air. And we'll take your suggestions. You can tweet at us at Phil Mackey, at Jay Zolgad, at Ramie is tweeting. Here's the summary of Point Break, gentlemen. Johnny Utah, an FBI agent, goes undercover to unmask a band of thrill-seeking surfers who rob banks.
That's it? That's the whole thing? I mean, that pretty much sums it up, but that's it? They didn't put any more effort into it?
That's the movie.
Yeah,
That's it. It's a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a pretty, not quite as star-studded of a cast as last week's Con Air.
Right.
But Keanu Reeves,
Not
Patrick
bad.
Swayze coming off a massive run of hit movies. Lori Petty was in the middle of Point Break, League of Their Own, and Free Willy in like a 2-year period.
She was also Tank Girl.
Tank Girl?
Yes.
What?
It was like a comic book movie.
Okay.
Jonathan, you don't know about that?
No.
How do you not know Tank Girl?
And then she
surprised.
went into hiding for 15 years and reemerged.
She had some
on
issues, right?
Orange is the New Black.
Didn't she have some issues?
No idea.
And that time I think she might have.
Gary Busey,
Oh,
peak Gary Busey.
Gary
in this movie.
Busey. Gary Busey. And the only instruction that he got was be Gary. We're going to change your name, but just be Gary.
Honestly, and I told you guys, I had a shocking revelation watching this.
I can't wait to hear this.
And it was that at one point in time.
Yeah.
At one point in film history, Gary Busey was a better actor than Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
That was a thing. That was a real thing. At one point in time, Gary Busey was a more skilled actor than Keanu Reeves. I forgot about this point in history.
Where did it turn for Gary Busey? Because
the motorcycle accident where he got brain damage, and I'm not even joking. I'm not being facetious about that or trying to make light of it. He had a motorcycle accident. He suffered some brain damage, and he was never the same again.
When was that? Do you remember?
I'll
find it.
I'll Google
because he did Lethal Weapon, he did Bulletproof.
In Lethal Weapon, by the way, he's outstanding.
Point Break.
You want to shout the title? I love it.
Which, by the way, we're going to do that movie too. It's ridiculous. And
the first one?
There's like 14 cops circled around, and he's like getting a shot at the title, and you just arrest him. It doesn't make any sense.
Mel's got to beat him up.
Arrest him.
1988 was when he got into
That's right around the time of
His best role was the veteran pitcher in Rookie of the Year, Chet Steadman, Chicago Cubs, long time.
Buddy
great.
Holly, right?
He was Buddy Holly.
And he was in that.
That's when he was actually a very good actor.
He is fantastic in that. Yes.
So anyhow,
all right.
Let's start with this question, and we'll lead off with Judd Zulgad here.
Oh, boy.
What was your favorite part of the movie Point Break?
Now that's unfair because there's about 18 of them that I think are fantastic.
Wow.
I think my favorite part though has to be when towards the end they're in the airplane and they're all jumping out with parachutes, and Keanu's been kidnapped basically, and he's left without a parachute, and he says bleep it, and he just jumps out of the plane and decides to go pursue Bodie, right? He just decides to go pursue him.
It's amazing.
In a midair pursuit, literally, and catches up to him without a chute. There's so many great scenes, but that's probably my favorite.
Rami Macklaf, what was your favorite part of Point Break?
I don't know how this isn't Judd's favorite part. Beach football game, man.
Because I knew you were going to bring that up.
Beach football game, which was a blatant attempt to rip off the beach volleyball game in Top Gun. It was they didn't even try to hide it. It was clear as day. This was a rip-off of the beach volleyball scene in Top Gun. And this is where, I don't think they mentioned it earlier in the movie, and I forgot about this particular aspect of the movie and the character development. I just said character development.
No, it's important. There was character development. Come on, man.
There's legit character development.
It's Catherine Bigelow, man. Catherine Bigelow did some great stuff.
But Johnny Utah was an All-American quarterback at Ohio State.
Yeah.
He blew his knee out in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Forgot all about that part of it. Lefty
gunslinger.
And he chases down Patrick Swayze, tackles him in the water. A little too rough for everybody's liking, but Patrick Swayze, he's impressed. He's impressed by Johnny Utah's tackle, and he tells everybody, back off, all right? This is football. And Johnny Utah is just playing football because Johnny Utah is a football player, dudes. He's a football player.
Football.
Right.
Okay, quick aside. Where does Johnny Utah rank in terms of great action movie names? It's got to be top 2 or 3. I don't know if there's a name better than Johnny Utah.
Mason Storm's pretty good.
Johnny Utah's better.
But Johnny Utah's it's top 3.
Also, like,
I'll put it top 3.
Johnny Utah also screams collegiate quarterback at Ohio State who played in the Rose Bowl and tore his knee. Like, if you just all right, so we're trying to figure out a name for a guy who played 3 years at Ohio State. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country, tore his knee up, played in a Rose Bowl, and then had to go on to another line of profession. Johnny Utah.
And every once in a while, that knee is going to crop up and create real problems when you're chasing bank robbers.
All right, Jonathan, your favorite part of Point Break?
It's probably the most disjointed raid I've ever seen in a movie, where just everything that could go wrong goes wrong.
The lawnmower.
The lawnmower, which gave us this line.
Speak into the microphone, squid brain.
After Keanu Reeves almost gets his face torn off by a lawnmower, and then just afterwards, there's an undercover agent within the house, apparently, who just gets all upset. But, why wouldn't the undercover agent or someone who knew that the undercover agent was there say something about that?
This whole plot is littered with just poor communication among the FBI. Poor communication.
Yes.
There are literally undercover FBI agents at like every major
turn.
scene of this movie,
And no
and they're
one
not
communicates?
communicating with each other.
And the
Ridiculous.
last bank robbery, the off-duty cop who's there, that guy is the most badass person in this whole movie. Like, he takes down the whole gang. You don't know, he is not in this movie at all. He's not. You never find out his name. And this dude just jumps up off the ground of the bank and starts sharpshooting the whole gang, takes them all out except for Patrick Swayze, and he's who the movie should have been about. He's the real hero here.
There should have been a spin-off, some kind of a spin-off just focused on Patrick Swayze, and like it'd be a prequel of some kind.
There should be a spin-off of that off-duty cop who was a badass and took out an entire bank robbing gang.
He's dead, right?
You do a prequel.
Because you knew he'd be dead.
Yeah.
By the way, in that raid scene, they quickly go by it, but Keanu Reeves gets beat up by a naked showering chick.
He did.
Yeah.
She actually
It's
took
the most disjointed raid
naked
I've ever
showering
seen.
chick beat up Keanu Reeves, and then I believe shot somebody else.
Yes.
Like took out 2 people in that scene. I think my favorite part of the movie was early on when Gary Busey was ashamed to say his theory about the ex-presidents being surfers. where like they were chatting him. Oh, why don't you tell him your theory? He's like, all right. And he starts pointing at like the tan lines on the back of their, like the one guy was mooning, one of the burglars was mooning the camera.
That was his deal,
right?
yeah.
And Gary Busey was like, well, if you look at their tan lines and this and this and this, and while he's explaining his theory of them being surfers, he's also, did you guys notice when they're doing their night cop work and they're looking at film? So I think it was like a bottle of beer or something that Keanu Reeves is swigging out of. Gary Busey grabs a full bottle of whiskey and is just drinking out of a bottle of whiskey during this scene.
And he was really doing that too, by the way. Yeah. I'm sure that was a full
and
bottle
probably
of real
like
whiskey.
10 different takes by that point.
Oh.
So, all right, what are some other key observations from Point Break?
Can I tell you guys something that disturbed me?
Sure.
Really disturbed me.
Mm-hmm.
The climax action scene, 1 hour into the movie, midway through the movie, which, by the way, I have to say, great action scene. It has everything you want in an action scene. It's got fast car chases, you got a foot chase, you got punches being thrown, you got shootouts. Like it has every element that you want from an action scene. But there was one, and it goes by like that. If you're not paying attention, you miss it. There was one moment in that action scene that I got really upset with, guys, and it's when Patrick Swayze was it was Patrick Swayze who he was chasing in the Reagan mask, right?
Yep. For like 5 miles. A ridiculous
at a
level
ridiculous
of cardio
pace
for both of these guys.
Nobody can run that fast for that long, but I'll let that slide. Right? I'll suspend my disbelief for 1 second.
Yeah.
They run through a lady's house. Patrick Swayze breaks the back door.
Yes.
They run through a lady's house.
Yep.
He picks up a dog.
Yep.
Who resembles my dog. Yes. He picks up a dog, throws it at Patrick Swayze. And Patrick Swayze, being the good guy, instead of just putting this dog down and being like, sorry, I ran through your house, throws the dog up in the air and punts it. Punts the dog like the biker from Anchorman. That dog didn't do anything to you, man. You're a cop. You're supposed to be the good guy. You're just going around punting, drop kicking people's dogs. What is wrong with Johnny Utah? Okay. Out of line, dude.
Okay, I love
out of line.
I love dogs, and I agree. I agree that the dog did not deserve that fate. But this is where you're wrong.
Do to him?
But this is where you're wrong about no character development, because Utah was conflicted throughout the course of that film, and his character became more conflicted about the life that he chose to lead because he got sucked in by the presidents. And so
you're saying that was the dark side of Johnny Utah coming out, punting that dog?
But Johnny Utah, as we see at the end, had a very dark side because the character development was this all-American quarterback from Ohio State who played in a Rose Bowl, who infiltrates this gang to do good and to break them up, and then legitimately enjoys being one of them.
Unnecessary, bro. That's all
Utah,
I'm saying.
But
unnecessary.
Right, but it's the character development. Man.
I mean, I'm kind of with John on this, in that by the end of the movie, he clearly doesn't want to be an FBI agent anymore.
He throws his badge in the water.
Yeah.
He's done.
Why in that scene, when they go through that lady's house, Patrick Swayze runs through with the mask on, Keanu Reeves run through with not a mask on. Clearly, he's probably the good guy, yet the lady who's in the house attacks him instead of the guy with the mask on.
That's a good question.
With a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. What?
Attacked him with a vacuum cleaner.
Question. Okay. Can I bring up an observation as well about Johnny Utah?
Of course.
He seems like he's quick to pick up surfing, and like he's a quick study. He's a pretty smart guy. And he makes one of the dumbest mistakes in the history of action movies. When he's at that hot dog stand or whatever, right? He's getting lunch on the side of the street. And the ex-presidents go in for what I believe was their 31st bank robbery in a 3-year span, is what the total was.
Yeah.
So they had robbed 30 banks in 3 years. So he's chasing. He doesn't know exactly who the bank robbers are, but he has now infiltrated himself into a group of surfers who may or may not have contacts to the bank robbers, right? So his whole mission is, all right, I'm going to get in tight with surfers. He identified the wrong group at first, thus the chaotic raid.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't know exactly who the ex-presidents are, but he's kind of infiltrating into this group. So he sees the ex-presidents running out of the bank, and he pulls his gun, and he starts shooting at them. Well, he can't see who they are because they have president's masks on, but they can see who he is. And so then he goes right back into the same surfer group that he's been infiltrating for the last several weeks and months as if nothing happened, even though they now know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
What a ridiculously boneheaded mistake by Johnny Utah.
Not only does
FBI agent.
Yeah, he goes skydiving with them.
Right.
He gets on a plane
Right.
and jumps out of it with them.
How does he not think in that moment, all right, wait a second. If I shoot at them, they now know who I am.
Yeah.
I can't go back to them now.
By the way, I think Johnny Utah, going back to the point of his character development, laugh. I think his dark side started to come out when he was trying to figure out his way in. If you remember this piece of audio.
Indecent exposure inside moving vehicle.
Hot. Very hot.
What else I got on her? I still haven't found anything I can really use. I gotta find an approach, a way in. Here we go. Both parents deceased. Airplane crash. San Diego, 84. Yeah. Definitely.
Using the girl's dead parents to get in with her.
Oh yeah. Well, and it worked.
Oh yeah, it worked.
But you know what? The best part is him clicking on that very 1980s computer keyboard. The big keyboard. Bang bang.
Amazing.
I mean, your point, Phil. It's a good point. But I think that Johnny Utah was so conflicted by that point that he didn't know what.
I don't think you can
was
blame
up.
the drop kicking the dog on character development, Judd. I just don't. That really.
Well, Judd, what is the thing? So you said the first time you watched this movie, you thought it was the worst movie
Halfway
you'd ever
through,
seen. Like,
terrible.
what is the thing in the second half of the movie that has now made it one of your all-time favorite movies?
Because it ultimately became it sort of. At first, I'm just like, this isn't very good, and there's not a lot going on here. And then there was, and it became at some points so ridiculous, but yet glorious that I really fell in love with this film. Because there are scenes where you're like, really? I mean, Ramie's right. The beach volleyball scene is fantastic, and it's awful. But they sort of they kept doubling down on things. And at some point in time, I'm just like, you know what? Mad props to you guys.
They committed to a plot. They
exactly right.
You know, at some point they all got in a room and said, all right, we need some kind of a tie. Like we know we want bank robbers and we know we want some kind of an undercover FBI agent, but like, what's the hook? Surfing?
Can I give
know.
you guys my greatest disappointment in retrospect about this film though? Because I've got one, and it's this one. Gary Busey's death. It's no good.
It was a little excessive.
Well, it's excessive, but it's not. I feel like that character as Utah's mentor should have got a better send off.
Yeah, he basically just got massacred from behind.
Yeah, right. I mean, but it's such a run of the mill movie killing to me.
Yeah.
Like take him up in the plane and push him out. Like do something and make Utah watch it. Make Utah matter.
Calm down, Carol Baskins.
I forgot, and honestly, I was a little surprised that they killed Gary Busey the way that they did.
That's what I'm saying.
Kind of uneventfully.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
It should
he
have
just
been a
gets
better
shot
death.
in the back by some dude who was like grabbing snacks and walked out and saw a standoff happening.
At the airport, right?
They could have. I feel like they had put all this work into building up Gary Busey as the right hand man and, like you said, the mentor.
Yep.
They could have used him as a device, some sort of leverage, right? Like,
yes,
they could have tortured him. They could have. I don't know. They could have done something. They could have put him on a. Yeah, they could have kicked him out of a plane or something. One of my favorite lines, and this is my next question to you. Your thoughts on Lori Petty as the main female foil here in this movie. But you guys remember the scene where Johnny Utah is attempting to get out and surf for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like attacking these waves that are way too big for a first time surfer. And he gets swallowed up. And Lori Petty, experienced surfer, saves him, brings him ashore, and then just laces into him and is like, has never been more annoyed by a human being in her life. She's like, just met this idiot who almost died. And like, you know, you could have killed yourself. Like, what are you doing, you idiot? Get the hell out of here. And she starts to go back out in the water. And after like 2 or 3 seconds, Keanu Reeves goes, he's like laying down, kind of, you know, trying to catch his breath. He goes, "The name's Johnny Utah."
There's so many great lines.
Like she was impressed with him, and he needed to tell her. Right.
This film is laced with great short lines.
You know,
oh man.
If we're done with the review itself, can I throw out a conspiracy theory that I have?
Please do.
That Judd kind of.
We have a couple little things to get to, but let's go to
Judd kind of spurred for me.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So he throws his badge in the water at the end, right? He's done being an FBI agent. And Judd, you already alluded to the fact that he's kind of turning to the dark side, to use Star Wars parlance, right?
Mm-hmm.
20 years later, a young man by the name of John Wick hits movie theaters and is an absolute assassin.
Yes.
Highly trained, mysterious background.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Huh?
Utah?
Huh?
Wow, dude.
I'm here for it.
Huh?
I'm believing it.
Dude,
You guys
what?
think this might be Utah back?
These universes are connected.
What?
What
Heard it here first.
Oh, what if that happens?
That they're connected. They're
Turns
making
hitman.
a fourth one.
He goes from FBI agent
To Hitman?
to hitman.
Because
Assassin.
you don't
It
start off.
makes total sense.
John Wick
I'm here
doesn't
for it.
start off with
And
the
an
beginning of his
assassin-
career. It starts off with the end of his career.
An assassin with a heart of gold.
Oh my gosh.
So we're
An assassin who at his core is a good person.
Yes.
Wow.
Who knows right from wrong?
Right? Where
Dude.
Johnny Utah is a cop who's got some bad in him. John Wick is an assassin who's got some good in him.
What if they
Am
did
I
it?
right?
What if they did it eventually and tied them?
Am I right?
Because Jonathan's right. John
Makes
Wick
perfect
movies
sense.
continue to go back. Like you find out more about John Wick's character and life the more the movies come out.
So
right?
we're going backwards?
So by John Wick 6, we're gonna go back to the beach when he throws the badge
Utah?
away.
Yeah.
That's when
We're going back
Patrick
to the beginning.
Swayze's son comes back
Dude.
for revenge.
Oh my God.
Am I right?
You just blew our minds.
Yes.
Am I right?
This is amazing.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So Judd found this nugget as well. Apparently,
I got a bunch of
other actors that were up for potentially playing the part of Johnny Utah
Yeah.
were Matthew Broderick, which would have been something.
Yes.
Johnny Depp,
That would have worked.
Val Kilmer,
Not now, but that might
and
have worked.
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen, I don't think I could
I
have
don't.
bought.
I can't see Charlie Sheen in this movie. What are your thoughts on some of those other guys? Matthew Broderick, Johnny Depp, Val Kilmer, or Charlie Sheen as Johnny Utah?
Johnny
I
Depp.
can't picture Matthew Broderick doing any
I'm with you.
action. Was there a point in his career where he thought he might go action star?
Well, he was in Glory, which is more of a Civil War movie.
yeah, but that's like more of a drama than it
Yeah.
is pure action.
Johnny Depp works for sure, right? And Val Kilmer back then in his prime of being Val Kilmer probably works.
Sure.
Although if Val Kilmer does it, you're just going to basically say the entire thing's a ripoff of Top Gun.
Yeah.
So I think there would have been too many parallels there.
All right. What other
Okay,
final thoughts?
I
here
want
on
to talk about the
Point
end.
Break?
I want to get to the end in Australia, where Utah, who's about to quit, has gone to great lengths to chase his man down. He's gotten to Bodie. He's got him. The Australian cops are there to deport him.
Worst Australian accents ever.
Oh yeah, and in fact,
Just terrible.
I looked this up today on Wikipedia. That scene I think was shot in Oregon.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, they didn't really go.
Doesn't
to-
look like Australia.
Um,
Those trees are definitely Oregon.
But your thoughts that he's got him locked up, and there are so many great, quick one-liners. I can't be in a cage, man. Can't be in a cage. And so he's like, lets him go, and then the last line is, he ain't coming back. The end. I absolutely love.
Yeah,
I think it's just
I
fantastic.
think the Australian cop asked him,
You let him
like,
go.
you let him go, and he goes, no, I didn't. I didn't let him go. He's gonna get swallowed up by that massive wave, right? That was
It was
the
amazing.
location. Where does Bodie keep his money? So that crew robbed 30 banks in 3 years.
Surfboard.
Now you're
Blocks
digging
of,
too deep.
blocks of cash, and they're mostly just like
Probably spending
minimalist,
it
right?
all.
Are they just spending like 10 grand a week? I don't know how much.
Well, it sounds like they surfed all over the world. So
I would ask you to Google this next question, but maybe not on a work computer. How much money does one obtain when one robs a bank without going into the vault?
Right. Until the end.
They got greedy.
And that's why they get killed. We never go in the vault, man. What are you doing?
It's too greedy. Too greedy.
And Swayze just went nuts.
All right, 2 remaining questions here. Action movie rewind, Point Break. Could this movie, this is a new question that we kicked around and I forgot to bring this up last week. Could this movie have gone an extra 30 minutes and still held your attention?
No, it was good.
I think I was good.
It was a 2-hour movie.
It was well paced.
I'm good with it.
It's fairly long, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, because I guess my question is if they had gone an extra half hour, exactly what the hell? More action scenes?
Yeah, I think
It's just 30 minutes more of that chase, the running chase.
I was
scene.
fine.
it's a 25-minute just sprint all
Them
across.
parkouring all across Los Angeles.
So, all right, on a scale of 1 through 10 Seagulls, Rami Makloff, how are you rating Point Break?
I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm gonna give it a 7. 7 Seagulls on the so bad it's good Seagal scale.
Okay.
7.
Jonathan?
Considering Fast and the Furious directly ripped this movie off, going back and thinking about it, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
That's
I loved it.
good.
So good.
Fantastic.
I'm in the 7 category as well. I thought it was really, really strong. That's actually the first time I've watched it from the very beginning all the way through the end. I've seen chunks of it all over TV, and it held my attention. I thought there was a few things here and there that could have been cleaned up, but a 7.
By the way, Dan tweets in his own conspiracy theories. All Keanu movies are Matrix simulations of the One.
Even Bill and Ted's Excellent
Crazy
Adventure.
stuff, man.
The Lake House.
Crazy stuff.
The Lake House.
Good God.
Good call, Jonathan. Nice work.
Oh my God.
Nice work, Jonathan.
Wow.
All
That
right.
happened. The Lake House was a thing that happened.
Have you seen it?
No.
Well, then perhaps it didn't happen. To you, it didn't happen.
That's true.
I
That's
think
true.
Dawn watched it one time, and I came in and watched part. And then the thing with Keanu in films like that makes him so good, though, is the obvious staring at cue cards.
What? Really? That's a thing.
I love you too. I'll never leave you.
That's a thing.
Not. It always looks like he's staring at cue cards doing scenes like that. Anyway,
All right, Judd.
So I believe I gave Hard to Kill, if I'm not mistaken. Did I give it 10 out of 10?
You did.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to give this, because I love this film, but it's not a Seagalian. I'm going to give it 8 Seagals.
Okay.
So still very strong. I actually thought it didn't track great, but it sort of did track. I can't give it a 10. I was toying with a 9, but I'm going to take it down to an 8 Seagalian film.
All right. There it is. Point Break, gentlemen. And
Never go back in the safe.
Here's our plan for next week. So next week, Friday will be the day after the first round of the NFL draft. We will have an action movie rewind ready to roll, and because it's my turn to pick, and I've got one for you guys for next week. If we don't do it next Friday because Vikings things are all over the place, then we will have 2 action movie rewinds the following week, a Monday and a Friday.
Oh,
but
what a week.
Ramie complained last week, and I hear him, that we've started this thing off and we've done 4 movies, and we've had Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme, but that there are a few Mount Rushmore action movie guys from the 80s and 90s that, like Stallone was one, and Schwarzenegger, and one that we haven't really talked about, but he would be on my Mount Rushmore of action movie stars.
Are we doing Mount Rushmore right now?
Yeah, can we?
I don't have
Can we
that
play
open
the
ready.
sound?
Mount Rushmore is easy. It's the
Thanks.
cliche Mount Rushmore sports talker of the week.
On my Mount Rushmore would be Harrison Ford. I think Harrison Ford is an amazing action movie star.
Get out of my studio.
Get off my plane. Air Force One
Oh,
next week.
okay. Air
gentlemen.
Force One.
So
On
we're still
action
going to
movie
skip
rewind.
over Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
Yep,
I
Stallone
thought-
is
all right.
Rambo and Rocky. And
I
there's
thought
19
sure-
of them.
And Over the Top.
I
Is
thought
Over the Top on our list of nominations?
It is.
Has
Okay.
to be.
What about, I thought of another one to add to the list of nominees, if you guys don't mind. Karate Kid.
Wow. I just listened to the rewatchables Bill Simmons Karate
Karate
Kid.
Kid?
It was
Really?
outstanding. They just did it like 2 weeks ago.
You know, can I just say this?
We'll put it on the list.
When we do get around to Stallone, I really would like a little bit of my guy, Johnny Rambo.
Okay.
I mean, the Rambos are just so good.
Okay.
Partially because he never talks.
Well, we'll get to him.
Johnny, you okay? John, your family's been killed.
Judd, did you say it was a hot dog stand that he went into when the bank robbery went down?
Phil did
I
it.
said hot dog
It
stand.
was actually it was a sandwich shop, and he specifically asked Johnny Utah to get him 2 meatball sandwiches. Then when he came
That's
back
right.
with the 2,
That's right.
he said, I should have asked you to get me 3.
Oh. All right, that is Action Movie Rewind here on Mackey and Judd with Ramie. We will wrap